Hey, sweet souls, it's DTO in the flow, sending you lots of love and blessings from Costa Rica. Some of you saw that I was recently visiting tons of awesome souls. It might have been you in California, and I have returned to a little slice of paradise. And today, as you can see, I get to interview, look below here, the visionary founder, James Kapicka of Moksha, the yoga board game. And you can see here, this is such a gorgeous, beautiful looking game. And today we're going to get into why a yoga board game and what is it that you can experience when you think about what moksha means, which is liberation in life. And so we welcome you. We invite you. This is a live streaming podcast. And so we encourage you to comment, ask a question. As we know, sharing is caring. So hit that share button. And for the algorithms to make sure that other people are aware of the yoga board game, you can simply comment with an emoji. And I want to make sure that all of you know that there is a crowdfunder happening right now where you can get your first edition copy of Moksha, the yoga board game, by going to yogaboardgame.com. It's that easy. And for myself, as always, you can check me out on all the socials, all the places and spaces, DTO Music, dtomusic.com. And thank you for being here. So James Kapicka and I, we met in the festival scene. We had, first of all, Himalaya was teaching a class at Bhakti Fest, Shakti Fest in Joshua Tree. And so that's how James first met Himalaya. And then when we had the online Lucidity Festival, I know it was a wild and wacky time in human history that there was actually an online festival. And when we got to meet during that, we kept the brotherhood and the connection alive. And James taught a class online. I was there to support with the soundtrack music. And of course, when the festival scene came back full-fledged in 2022, we got to meet in person, got to hang out, even got to stay in his trailer, which is a next level of intimacy. And this has been an amazing journey and process. So my marketing team, everythingisperfect.com, specifically creative Tiffany, she has been the creative director and the designer, along with James' support and my support to make sure that this board game, as you can see, is so gorgeous. You can see how colorful it is. And it is a way for us to gamify our lives. And for a lot of us that are on the journey of yoga, this is the yoga board game you've been waiting for. So without further ado, let's have James speak into this. Here he is, James Kapicka. Thanks for being here.
Hey, Dave. Thanks so much for having me. Feels really good to be here.
Yeah, and you're the first guest ever I've had that's in a sauna. So let's start with that.
I live in a community of 12 people, so there's not a lot of places where I can guarantee sound control. The sauna is close to the Wi-Fi and allows me a little insulation from the construction and the dogs and all of the humans coming and going. So glad to be here. Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, you're welcome. Grateful that you're here. And as you can see behind you, Moksha, yogaboardgame.com. Check it out, everyone.
It's pretty exciting. And yeah, I appreciate you commenting about how beautiful it is. Tiffany, part of your team, has done so much with the graphics to bring the energy of all the content into a visual representation. And it feels really good.
Mm-hmm. Yes. We're all here to live a colorful life, and why not play a game that's colorful and exciting and actually goes really deep into the practice that goes beyond the asana practice. So we're going to get into that in a little bit. And this is a 5Q interview. So let's kick it off with question number 1, which is about the origin story. So when did you begin your yoga journey?
It's a great question. It's a bit of a challenging one to put a starting point, in that I think we all come into the world with the template that led to the old sages finding the yoga path. Meaning, I guess I had some disposition to aspects of the yoga practice since I was really young. I loved doing arm balances and holding my breath and breath work in general. I grew up in a pretty religious home, so the idea of a soul or what happens after you die was a pretty hot topic. And so the template was already there to be considering, I guess, the meaning of life and what consciousness was and this experience of being alive. And I think I found yoga really attractive from a distance when I first like noticed a yoga studio, and I was busy being a punk rocker, just wondering what it was and curious about what was happening in this mysterious space. But really, I'd say the yoga practice first showed up with Ram Dass and his "Be Here Now" book that's been so influential for millions of people. I found it along with a best friend. We discovered it about 20 years old, and would spend like evening after evening reading little discourses and getting into long conversations. And so it introduced me to a lot of the ideas of Eastern traditions, of Hindu traditions, of understanding the world in a different way. And I'd say Ram Dass was a big catalyst to that. After that, reading the Bhagavad Gita, kind of obsessively for several years before I actually found the asana practice and started bridging together the physical practice of yoga with India's philosophical tradition, which was a big jump, because for me, I was spending a lot of time in my head and trying to understand things, and getting into asana and like this practice of tantra that we do in the West through the yoga practice. Was kind of this awakening and integrating of my practice from something that I understood to something that I embodied. Yeah, that's my answer.
Fantastic. And I love how everyone's journey into this practice is so unique, and absolutely Ram Dass, Be Here Now. That's
yeah. I was really blessed to meet him and do workshops with him when I was in Maui. And yeah, I had a conversation with him, which essentially I was crying so much because I was so full of joy to meet this friend that I'd had for over a decade from his books and his lectures and his words. And so just like crying and hugged him, and all I could say was thank you, because he's been such an inspiration and a light. And like I said, he's been a friend of mine for years, even though we weren't personally acquainted. He'd been such a guide in his insight and wisdom and treading the path as a trailblazer for me and for so many people.
Yes, Ram Dass.
Yeah.
When I was at Bhakti Shakti Fest, I never got to meet him in the flesh. He always did a live stream during the festival, and just his energy radiated the space. And there's not many human beings that had that brilliant light within that could give a love blast out to crowds of people, even from remote locations when he was alive in physical form. Of course, he's still alive even in this conversation. So what a powerful being.
Yeah, there's such a frequency piece when you get around a spirit like that, that's like draws people in and attunes people. Yeah, he had such a vibration. It reminds me of Christ, Jesus, walking up to fishermen and saying, you know, leave your job, leave your family, change your name, which, you know, philosophically is not a great argument, but people did it. And to me, that means there's something about that vibration that was so attuned that people just wanted to be around it. And I felt that with Ram Dass. I felt that with a couple other teachers that are so like, you know, like when you get around a baby or a puppy and you're just like, I just want to be around this joy and this love and light, like as much and as long as possible.
Yeah, we have someone live streaming here that said, yes, Ram Dass. So thank you for chiming in with some additional energy for the impact that he's made in the world. And obviously, in the early 1900s, this is when Yogananda came to bring yoga to the Western world. And, you know, Ram Dass being a part of that wave in the Western world to then have his message and bring it to so many souls that had no clue about the practices from India, right? And then that gets into whole other ways of framing your life and a whole lifestyle. So it's wonderful to hear that was in your response. So then question 2 I have is, so then what inspired you to teach?
Yeah, I think the kind of common answer is, you know, yoga had done so much for me. I wanted to give back, and there's truth in that. But if I really dig into it, I just wanted as much as possible. Essentially, like once I started practicing in a studio space and actually making a community of friends and allies in the yoga community, it shifted from something really personal and more philosophical to something really embodied. And it it created this thirst in me for a desire to practice more, to teach, to go to kirtan, to visit ashrams, to go to yoga potlucks, and just be around the community and like soak up every ounce of the experience of being in yoga I could. So teaching was essentially just another part of that bigger catalyst, wanting to kind of be a part of keeping the tradition alive and passing it on. But I think the biggest draw was just like, I want as much of what we're calling yoga in my life, which was the philosophy and then the asana and then the people and then how all of those things give my life more meaning and fulfillment, and they all work me in different ways, right? When I sit and reflect on meaning of consciousness and life is different than when I practice asana and go for a jog, and dance is different than when I'm spending time with community and building relationship and sometimes butting up against each other and polishing each other's rough edges. So there was this thirst that got I guess my palate got wet with how much the practice was filling me up, and I just wanted more. And so teaching was essentially another way to have more of my time spent in this realm of what we're calling yoga.
And as we know, we're always the student and the teacher within. So I love when you have jumped into the practice to guide and teach, that it's also expanded, that you also teach a Thai massage class. So you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah. It's really kind of mirrored when you were talking about Yogananda and some of these classic teachers in the past 100 years, Iyengar and Pattabhi Jois, that brought asana to the West too. There was a transition 100 years ago, approximately, where teachers realized that they could have a wider impact if they started teaching classes rather than private one-on-one with students. And the Thai massage class was kind of a similar motivation in that I'm a Thai massage practitioner and I can only work on one body at a time. However, I've taught classes where people are paired up. I've taught classes up to 400 people, meaning half of them, 200 people, are getting body work at any given moment. And so similarly to like how yoga has grown into a classroom setting, bringing the massage practice into a classroom setting really allows a broader impact. Could have hundreds of people with no formal training in body work, even though of course we all know how to touch, right? Because it's our first language. It's this opportunity for people to be able to be led and pass a practice on of touch and massage and body work to other beings. So it's really empowering to see the practice ripple out. There's this kind of this feeling of like I have hundreds of hands in the room when I see all the humans loving on the other 50%. It's one of the most like inspiring and breathtaking and joy creating experiences I have. Yeah, thanks for asking about that.
Yeah, and the photo that I'll put up again here, it's showing the impact that being able to teach to a multitude of individuals that are looking for that connection. And so when you partner people up, it's a wonderful way. And as you said, like our primordial way of being interfacing with the world and in life is to have touch in addition to taste and sight and all the other multi-sensory ways. And so, yeah, I'm grateful in this photo. I got to play my music for this experience. And so many people, as we recognized during and after the practice, just had a blissful look on their faces. And yeah, it's our birthright to be connected.
And that photo, it demonstrates something that I think most yogis know about the asana practice. Like when you're on your own mat, yes, you're in this collective, but you're also really in your own body and practice. And what that image shows is kind of the same with these dyads, is there's this whole like space full of hundreds of people, and every one of them is really spending this one-on-one time dropped in their private experience. So that was a blast to do with you. And it was a next level experience to have the DTO soundscape backing up the Thai massage practice. So thanks for that memory.
Yes. And we have a comment. Someone just jumped in and wrote, that's what I love about live streaming. You get all these fresh comments. So hybriding with movement and touch is so magical.
Hybriding. Yeah. To expand too, because yoga can be very specific. Like, well, we do yoga in here. And it's like, well, to me, yoga asana practice anyway is bandhas, drishti, and breath. And so for me, I can bring that practice into massage. I can bring that into weightlifting or riding a bike. It's the way that we're embodying ourselves. And so this hybridization of like, yeah, let's draw from different schools of practice to really say yes to everything that's effective. Thank you.
Yeah. Let's jump into question 3. And before I ask the question, I do want to frame it, because when I asked what's your approach, that could be a very broad part of it. But what I love about your approach to life, as well as teaching, as well as being a student, and as well as being the designer and visionary of Moksha, the yoga board game, I remember you're the first person to ever say that asanas, or you're making shapes with your body. And it simplified it in such a great way for my brain, where I was like, yeah, that's what we're doing. We're making shapes with your body. It doesn't necessarily mean we're going into philosophical questions. We're going deeper into meaning of life, as well as ways to connect with community, a way to show up in the world and play a bigger game. So I love that each of us in these individual journeys and collective consciousness, we get to have our own viewpoints and approaches. So that was a little nugget that you gave me once. So I just want to, acknowledge that. To say, I was like, yeah, that was cool. Like, okay. And it makes it more fun. Like, we're all in like kindergarten, like, let's make shapes with our bodies.
Yeah.
And it's also so many people that have been practicing yoga, sometimes that's all they believe. And truly, like, if you watch a commercial on TV and it's yoga, it's simply people in a yoga studio making shapes with their bodies. And there's, as you were speaking about earlier, the bandhas and all the other, again, the chakras and the doshas and the koshas, how is it that there's a broader approach? And obviously this came to life in Moksha, the yoga board game. So feel free to answer the question as you'd like. So what's unique about your approach?
Yeah, thanks. Well, I guess I'll tailgate or piggyback off of the comment of shapes. Shapes is a fun way to really get people to take less pressure, in the sense of like, when I hear the word pose, I think like posing for a camera. There's this kind of like Madonna thing. And when I hear posture, there's kind of this, I don't know, like old English energy of stiff and rigidity, and shapes are organic and soft. So I guess what I'd say, the short answer of what makes my classes and practices different than many, is permission. The watercourse way of Taoism has really influenced my approach to life, and that there is a trust in ease and allowance, and that not everything, and not really most things, are gained by force or rigidity. So there's a degree of putting a lot of energy back into trusting your own intuition as a student and handing that back to them, which was theirs in the first place. So even when I say give permission, it's really not that I'm giving them permission. I don't have a right to give anyone permission. It's more that there's a reminder that people can do whatever they want, essentially. Like, I don't teach yoga for people to obey what I'm saying, and I don't have all the answers. I definitely can't know what's best for anybody better than they can know for themselves. So there's this degree of suggestion and permission to remind people to give themselves permission, is really what it is. And part of that seems like a mixture of me, of the mundane and the profane, right? There's some degree of, like you mentioned, like with the chakra system, and we have this highly developed vehicle that we're blessed to be embodied in, that has the ability to find bliss in this life and make big changes for others. And at the same time, we're just mammals living our lives and doing our best. So there's a way to both really honor the sacredness of this practice, and at the same time not try to supercharge it with any airs of putting on postures or pretending that we're anything different than we are in the moment. And so it takes this mixture of really creating ritual and deep meaning in what we're doing, and also taking ourselves lightly. Like the Dalai Lama said, you're not going to make much progress on the path of spiritual growth and enlightenment without a sense of humor. So something about staying childlike and treating all of this like it's play and an experiment, and we're doing our best, and finding the non-attached joy in doing your best is something I try to pass on to students.
Yes, and we have some live comments on that. I love James's classes because he downsizes to the nuance backed by the science.
Mm.
And then someone else wrote, so freeing and allowing. And then humor, yes, play all the way. Could be a bumper sticker. Play all the way.
Play all the way.
Yeah, stop.
Yeah, thank you
Turn
so
that
much for
frown
sharing.
upside down.
Yeah,
Love it.
yeah, permission's really huge, right?
Hmm.
It's us remembering to trust ourselves and to trust that this vessel is made in divine image, and that it's something to lean into rather than something to subjugate and surpass, right? That's is the aspect of the hatha practice. The aspect of tantra is that like everything is sacred and our body knows best.
Hmm. Absolutely. Let's jump into question 4. So tell us about Moksha, the yoga board game, and I'm gonna put up an image of what the board game looks like. And the bigger question is, why a yoga board game, James?
Thanks. Yeah. Well, I think a little bit following in that tradition of these yogis that brought this practice to the West. Um, and Ram Dass also being a man that did that, a man from the United States, a Jewish man, not an Indian man, but he found a way to go learn more about these practices that he valued and wanted to utilize, and then kind of digested it and disseminated into something that was more accessible for people in the West. Similarly, because he is such an inspiration for me, I have studied aspects of the yoga practice for over a decade and really appreciate sharing with people not just the information, the ideas, but really what the information gives people access to in their own system of consciousness and embodiment. And so a way to do that essentially is to create cliff notes, right? Like that's the shorthand is, okay, you're in high school and you don't want to read this big text. So you go by the cliff notes and it gives you like, what's your palette and gives you some understanding. When people first step into looking at the yoga philosophy and these practices, they can be really overwhelming. And at the same time, there's a way, as you know this, Dave, as an educator, there's a way to share information that makes people really grok with it more fully. And there's a lot of books about yoga classically, and there's a lot of new books written by Westerners about yoga. And so rather than kind of jump on the bandwagon and write another text that does the best job I can to culminate and summarize a lot of the basic teachings of yoga, I wanted to gamify it in part because gamification is a big, and people say life hack for me. And it works with kids, it works with animals, and which means it works with adults, right? Because adults are nothing more than kids in big bodies. So giving people gamification, which means we're playing as we learn. It means you can't get it wrong. You can't do it wrong. We're just playing a game. And in the process, a lot of our self-criticisms and the pressure of doing it right can dissolve. And as a result, not only is it more fun, but we actually learn a lot more effectively. So the game idea was to pass on the aspects of yoga, right? The 4 paths of karma or service, bhakti or devotion, the path of jnana or using the intellect and access to wisdom, and raja, which is the path of royal yoga or 8-limbed yoga that's about meditation and direct experience. So taking these 4 concepts and then wanting to put it in a way that's gamified basically resulted in a game kind of inspired like Cranium that has different categories all compiled in one game. And really the goal, if I had 3 goals, or the tagline, right? Moksha is the liberating game of laughter, discovery, and connection. So the idea was to create something fun and that made people laugh. And that looks like the Pictionary and charades that are the Raja Karma category, because anytime someone's pantomiming, there's the possibility for a bit of humor to just naturally erupt. And Pictionary is similar, right? This is inspired by that game to have artists draw. Whereas Guyana, this is the discovery category, right? The one where we get to learn something about the Hindu tradition, about deities, about physiology and anatomy. And then Raja, this personal share, is the connection category, so that we have this ability to be vulnerable and authentic and maybe lead everyone through a short exercise. Most of them are personal shares where we're telling about ourselves and we're getting to know each other. And so, in a sense, there are 3 principles that are highly valuable to me in my teaching as a yoga practitioner and teacher, and they come through in my life. They came through in this game of like, what's important to me is learning and ease and play and connection, right? Something that every person I know needs, and most people I know are seeking more of in my life: deeper connection.
Absolutely. Well, you have a crowdfunder happening right now on Indiegogo. So I want to share this with everyone. So if anyone would go to yogaboardgame.com, or within the moment right now, I can put it in the comments. Oh, hey, Tiffany, I ordered mine. Whoop,
Thanks,
whoop.
Tiff.
Awesome. Amazing. Yes, you have some fans here, fans of the game. So I just placed in the comments for everyone, yogaboardgame.com that you can go to. And so here is the crowdfunder. We're over halfway, 55%. And there are 9 days left, and there's 71 backers. That's incredible. So let's watch the video so people can see what the invitation is as far as Moksha, the yoga board game.
Do you love yoga? Do you love board games? Do you love getting together with friends and family to play, laugh, and connect? Maybe like me, you have childhood memories of gathering around the table, opening a game, and becoming immersed in the magic of playing and exploring together. Hi, my name is James Kapicka, and I am thrilled to introduce you to Moksha, the liberating game of laughter, discovery, and connection. Moksha, meaning liberation in Sanskrit, is a hilarious, interpersonal, and educational game inspired by the yoga tradition. Not to be confused with Yoga Twister, as there's no actual doing of poses. Instead, Moksha gamifies the themes of yoga and brings people together through playful collaboration. In classical board game fashion, Moksha has a start and end space where players move forward by successfully completing a task from one of the 4 paths. Kurma, the path of service and action, where you are the artist and players guess who or what you draw. Bhakti, the path of devotion, where you act or pantomime and players guess who or what you are. Jnana, the path of knowledge and wisdom, where you think and answer trivia questions. Don't worry, they're multiple choice. And Raja, the path of meditation and direct experience, where you share something personal or lead everyone through a short exercise. More than simply a board game, Moksha is a portal into the world of personal exploration and group interaction. It can be played in teams, as a collaborative effort, or with each player moving forward on their individual journey. And the 4 paths can even be played as mini games. After almost a decade of gestating and receiving input from friends and teachers, divine timing led me to an amazing team of artists, developers, and yogis. Our intention in creating a game about yoga and other aspects of Indian culture is to honor the wisdom and insight from these traditions in a way that is accessible and incredibly fun. And we are beyond grateful to share Moksha with you. So are you ready to play more and find liberation in your life? 10% of all profits go to the Prison Yoga Project in their efforts to bring mindfulness-based, trauma-informed yoga to inmates in several countries. Thank you for taking the time to learn about Moksha, for contributing, and for sharing this campaign with your community. To learn more, visit yogaboardgame.com and stay tuned for more announcements and special offers.
That's fun. I love that video.
It's
I love
fun,
how
really
yeah.
great team of people supporting, making it happen, and it made me want to share watching it. The purpose of the game, right, is called Moksha. Moksha is a Sanskrit word for liberation, and really the purpose of yoga is much more than having a pretty vehicle that you can show off on Instagram, right? So the idea of accessing things in this practice beyond just the asana, which is why the no yoga twister thing, because when people hear yoga board game, their brain goes
Yeah.
right to like, so twister for yogis. The reality is we didn't include asana in the game because there's no teacher there, you're not warmed up, and who really wants to watch someone else do their asana practice? So instead it was this extraction of the terms and the philosophy and the interpersonal aspects of applying this practice that are gamified in Moksha.
Yes. And as you can see, people have a blast doing it, a liberating game of laughter, discovery, and connection. And that sums it up right there. So let's go through some of the different options for people. And I know several people that are watching right now live or on the archive have contributed. And in this situation, it's really about you getting access to the first edition of the game and allowing for this crowdfunder to continue to grow and there's 9 days left. And maybe when you're watching this, there's 8 days, 7 days, 6 days. The countdown is absolutely on. So we would love for you to share and contribute, just like Tiffany mentioned, she's already purchased her game. And so you can be the student, which you look on the right here, which is you get your copy of the game, and that is a $36 US contribution. And if you want to be able to be the gifter, so that donates a copy to a nonprofit yoga studio. And let's go to the devotee. I'll let you take it from here, James. Want to explain devotee?
Yeah, it's 12% off. They're all discounted. You're getting the first edition copy, and this also has a 2-hour class with 22 different chapters that can be watched individually in different orders, or as like a kind of a master yen class that's a digital download.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you scroll to the next one, this is for someone that's thinking about Christmas coming up and is like, well, I want a copy, but I want to get one for someone else. It's got a bigger discount, and they can get a first edition copy for themselves and a friend.
Warrior. Raw love warriors.
And if we move to Guardian, represented by Ganesha, we have this 3 copies of the game with a bigger discount. If you got 2 people you can't decide who you want to buy it for, you can get it for both of them for Christmas, or for just because you love them.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have our provider tier with Shiva here. This is a little bit more of a bigger contribution to the campaign that also includes a 90-minute private yoga session that can be done virtually. It can be done in person if somebody's regional. But the idea is to bring the concepts of the game and what's taught in the online class to something with a little more private instruction. And then our benefactor is someone that really wants to support this game showing up in the world. And besides getting all the previous perks, they get a private virtual couples massage that's facilitated similarly to how I teach a Thai class. And they get a lifetime supply of Moksha products. So we're looking at making stickers, clothing line, and other items. And so this would all be included free of charge. Or included in the donation for life. So this is the person that really wants to get behind this project, and that we're gonna acknowledge with everything we produce as a group forever.
Yes. So yeah, if you are aligned with any of these options, especially being a benefactor, then we will absolutely appreciate how far that the campaign has already arrived to, and there's still more to do. And there's still more to go. And this is one of our beautiful images of you and a friend playing the game. I love this setting. It looks so much fun. Pantomiming.
It's been really lovely sharing it and getting feedback from people, both to refine the game, but particularly were surprisingly in love with it more than they expected. They had more fun. They learned more. They laughed more than they expected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and it's great looking through the perks too, seeing, somebody has jumped in as a benefactor, someone has jumped in as a provider. And so there's 6 different tiers to claim from to get your own game, as well as the one where you can donate a game to a nonprofit studio. And people can even just donate to the campaign as a flat rate. If they're like, I already got my copy, or I don't really love board games, but this seems really awesome. So there's lots of ways people can support. And like you said, Dave, sharing's massive, right? Sharing is caring. So being willing to take a moment just to throw this up on a social media platform, tag some friends that might be interested. We're running a contest actually starting today at noon for anybody that shares the post and puts 3 tags in it. They get entered to win a free drawing. So that starts today at noon on the Moksha Facebook and Instagram for 72 hours.
Amazing. Yeah. So that even means if you are watching this right now or watching it on the archive, then just hit the share button. Share it on, let's say if you have a Facebook profile, in addition to a Facebook page or a Facebook group, then we can see how often people have shared. And if you share 3 times, as James said, then you'll be entered into that contest. So we're gamifying the game, which is a gamification of how we can have laughter, discovery, and connection. So I love how we all get to play. What did someone write earlier? Play is the way.
Play is the way. That's
right. Yes, there it is. Play all the way. So great. Yeah. And so if you are following right now on either yogajames.com on the Facebook group, and there is also a yoga board game Moksha group on Facebook, a page that was created. And then we're also sharing this on Buddha Music Group, DTO, and all of those locations. So Wonderful. This is a phenomenal update of where the campaign has been. And what I love about this is that this has been brewing, and you've been, nurturing and giving life to this idea of doing Moksha, the yoga board game, for several years. And then it's come to fruition in this divine timing. And here we are, and we get to have people show up as students, gifters, devotees, warriors, guardians, providers, and benefactors. So whoever is resonating with any of these options, then as we're sharing with you, simply go and go directly to the Indiegogo. And as you can see, it's 55% there. And the goal is $10,108, which I love. 108 for the mala beads and all the other significances that 108 has. So yes, thank you, James. So before we continue and complete here, do you have any other things to say? Any added? Well, the contest starts today at noon. Let's start with that. And so that's once this is posted on Instagram as well as Facebook or any other yoga places for people to share about the yoga board game, then they'll enter the contest. And excellent. Well, any closing words?
Yeah, the contest image will go live at noon on Instagram and Facebook. So that's something people can share. And I think I mainly just want to say, share my gratitude. All the way back from Ram Dass. I mean, I started writing this content down a month after I met him in person. Fast forwarding through all the people that have played and given feedback, to meeting you, Dave, to Tiffany, the amazing graphic designer that's built out the website and all the components of the game, and the 71 backers though so far. It's amazing to be past the 50% benchmark. When you start something like this, you don't know what's going to happen, both the campaign and the game. It's an act of faith. And so to see that return, both of people genuinely being interested and the response from people that have experienced the game, it's really inspiring. And I just have a huge amount of gratitude to everyone that's contributed, everyone that's shared, and a big ask to say, if you're on the fence, or if you're willing to carve out 2 to 3 minutes to share about this campaign, those are the little acts that make the magic happen. So a big thank you, and a call for action for anyone that feels any degree of inspiration to help this campaign.
Absolutely. And Stitch agrees with everything you say. And Stitch has already texted 5 of his friends, which we recommend you do in this moment, and say, hey, I just checked out this awesome interview. There's a yoga board game, and get your first edition copy. So we appreciate you bringing this to life to the world, James. And thanks again for being here. And thank you, everyone. And Tiffany just wrote in, you've worked so hard. It's been fun seeing it come into real life, and it's going to go far. Aho. Thank you, everyone out there watching. Thank you, James, for your presence, your energy, and your dedication to bring this to the world.
Thank you, friends. Appreciate you, Dave, and everything you've done. Appreciate everybody dropping in and saying hi, and look forward to what happens in the next 9 days.
Yes, the countdown's on. All right, everyone, go to yogaboardgame.com. Thanks again, James.
Thanks, friends.